For Time on Freedom, Mikhail Baranov. Hello, and now to the main events of Tuesday. The Russian army struck an infrastructure facility in the Lviv region. According to local authorities, after the strike in the village of Smeln, carbon monoxide levels were found to be above normal. Residents were urged to keep their windows tightly closed and limit movement outdoors. People with chronic respiratory and cardiovascular conditions are strongly advised to stay at home. Specialists from the Regional Center for Disease Control and Prevention continue to monitor air quality, while more than 100 rescuers are working to eliminate the consequences of the Russian attack. Preliminarily, there have been no reported casualties. Russia continues attacking Ukraine's energy sector. After the strike, for regions lack power, the ministry reports. Outages hit Kharkiv, Odesa, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk. Significant electricity shortages persist in Kiev. Emergency repair work is ongoing in all populated areas where the security situation allows. 3 people were killed as a result of the Russian shelling of Odesa. At night, Russian forces launched more than 50 drones. Dozens of residential buildings, a church, a kindergarten, a lyceum, and infrastructure were damaged. Large-scale fires broke out at several locations. Dozens of apartments were hit, shattering windows and facades. Reports say 35 injured, 12 hospitalized, with 2 kids and a pregnant woman. 1 person is in serious and another 8 are in moderate. Our correspondents have more.
Since this morning, central Odesa has been shrouded in smoke. Since last night, they couldn't extinguish the fire at a prayer house. People were inside during the attack. Konstantin says after the explosion, he was buried under wall debris.
We spent the night here. This building, there was a church here, ours, the Holy Land. And we ended up staying here for the night. At 3 in the morning, there was the first explosion. We woke up, and apparently the windows were blown out. Something hit nearby first. Then there was a second explosion, hitting the second floor. In ours, yeah, it was scary. The doors were blown out, and we got hit a bit by the doors.
This residential building was hit for the second time. Since January 13th, shockwaves blew out windows. After the night strike, an entire entrance burned out.
My apartment is here, on the 4th floor. The windows were covered with plastic film. I went to live with relatives because it's impossible to live here for now. I had to wait until the windows could be fixed. And today I saw it too and came to take a look. But they say you can't even go in there now. My coworker lives on the 5th floor. Poor thing, she stayed out. Hers broke too, but her windows face away.
In the Kotzebue district, post-shelling, a large hole spans 3 floors. Rescuers are still clearing the rubble. Dog handlers are also working at the scene. They're searching for those who haven't made contact.
Why is all this happening? It's just heartbreaking for everyone. It feels like my heart is bleeding. I just want to scream.
Otsem Lizia is waiting by the destroyed building for her colleague. The fate of the woman's son is also unknown.
The woman had lived with her son for 50 years. She didn't come to work today. We came here, just stood there like this, staring. We still don't know anything. We're waiting.
Nearby houses were also damaged. People's windows were blown out.
It was all just so terrible. We ran as the explosions thundered. Glass was falling all over the stairwell. My child and I ran downstairs to the shelter. Thank God for this. Stairwell windows blew. It was scary. My child's hands cramped up from fear.
In Odesa, over 10 hits were recorded. The attack damaged over 40 residential buildings in 3 districts.
It was a very tough night for Odesa residents, with more than 10 hits affecting the area. The residential sector, rescuers managed to save 14 people at night. 3 of them were children. Some people were trapped in their apartments.
As a result of the Russian attack, an energy facility was damaged. Part of the city lost power. No restoration forecast exists. Weather conditions worsen the situation. Ksenia Sitynskaya, Zurab Tedaluri, Odesa, Freedom TV channel.
This morning, Russians struck Sloviansk in the Donetsk region, hitting the city's private sector with 3 aerial bombs. 2 people were killed and 1 was injured. The regional prosecutor's office reported 5 houses were damaged. A 20-year-old man was rescued from under the rubble. Kharkiv and the region were once again under a combined attack last night. Russia hit the region with missiles and drones. Per local prosecutors, they used Tornado-S multiple launch rocket systems. 3 were injured. 1 city lyceum and a kindergarten were damaged. Report by Natalia Belakudri.
Explosions hit Kharkiv Monday evening. Russia used rocket artillery and Shahed drones for the attack. Schools, a kindergarten, homes, and infrastructure came under fire. After the shelling, Kharkiv was mostly without power. The subway was partially out of service.
2 educational institutions in Kharkiv were damaged, and 2 people were injured. In addition, our energy sector was hit, and there is quite serious damage. All crews are working on site to quickly eliminate the consequences. 3 missiles hit the industrial district. It was an energy facility that supplies power to the city of Kharkiv. There is very serious damage. Right now, everyone is working.
A 3-story lyceum for children with disabilities was severely damaged by shelling. This educational institution has been hit before. In 22, the windows here were blown out. But this time there was a direct missile hit into one of the buildings.
Can you say that this morning is a good one? I can say that this morning is good. Why? Because everyone is alive and well. The building is destroyed. Right now, we're looking at the academic building, the first floor, the elementary classes. It's really scary to say what happened here. A woman was stressed, but no one ended up in the hospital. The guard who was here got his face injured by glass shards.
Part of the wall on the 3rd floor of the academic building has collapsed. A fire also hit the building next door. All 22 classrooms were damaged. Over 200 windows blew out. Equipment and supplies were destroyed.
Just a couple of days ago, I was here. The work laptop I used was left in the office on the 2nd floor. I hope it's still intact. Well, whatever happens, happens.
At the lyceum, 164 children were studying. Classes were online, but children were awaited here, and everyone hoped to meet soon.
A lot of children studied here. I remember all of them, their concerts and how they performed. There were so many interesting things here. And now when you run into some of the kids, you just can't. Those emotions, they never fade.
The blast wave damaged 20 apartments nearby. Reports show over 270 windows were blown out, and the roof was destroyed. Utility services cleared the debris on site. Natalia Belakudria, Andrei Dalmovoy from Kharkiv for Freedom TV.
Last night, the Russian army launched 165 attack drones at Ukraine. Nearly 100 were Shaheds. Defenses downed 135 targets, Ukraine's Air Force says. Strikes were recorded at 14 locations. There were 103 combat clashes on the front line over the past day. Ukraine's General Staff reports Pokrovsk remains the most difficult. There, defenders repelled 33 assaults, with 15 in Kostiantynivka and 16 in the Hulie Pole sector. And on the Kharkiv section of the front, Ukraine's defense forces repelled 2 attacks by the invaders. In the Lyman direction, the Russians attacked it 3 different times, trying to actively advance toward Drobyshev and Lyman. Total Russian combat losses in Ukraine exceed 1,235,000 personnel. Yesterday, Ukraine's defense forces eliminated 820 occupiers, per the General Staff of the Armed Forces. Ukrainian defenders also destroyed a tank, 3 armored vehicles, 47 artillery pieces, and 2 enemy MLRS. Another 119 units of Russian vehicles and special gear won't return to the battlefield. Today, the world remembers Holocaust victims. A ceremony attended by Volodymyr Zelenskyy took place at Babyn Yar in Kiev. The president noted the catastrophe when millions of Jews were killed by Nazis, was fueled by the indifference of others. Zelenskyy emphasized that this is a clear lesson from history, and hatred toward one people will never stop on its own. And the protection of life responsibility is not only for the brave, but for all of humanity.
The world united to defeat the Nazis and achieve victory over this evil. It was on this day, January 27th, 1945, that the last prisoners of Auschwitz, one of the most horrific Nazi concentration camps, were liberated. This is exactly how the world should act now as well. Every time hatred and war threaten nations, unity is needed, the kind that saves lives. Everyone in the world who truly values peace and tranquility should value them not just for themselves, but should do everything possible to ensure that hatred never prevails again, so that anyone who spreads it always knows they are bound to lose. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
In Lviv, people honored the memory of Holocaust victims, prayed, lit candles, and laid flowers at the monument to the victims of the local ghetto. According to researchers, the Lviv Ghetto was the largest on the territory of the USSR and the third largest in Eastern Europe. Over the course of 2 years, more than 136,000 Jews passed through it.
Had a grandmother and grandfather who were burned alive in their own home in Chisinau. The rest of my family was in Leningrad during the blockade. They were killed in Leningrad. I believe it is my duty. My duty to our fellow countrymen, the Jews who lived here. This is the responsibility of every person who wants to keep humanity in their heart. The Holocaust was a horrific crime, and now a terrible crime is being committed against the people of Ukraine, one we can witness with our own eyes, and which our Ukrainian army is doing everything in its power to stop. Our Ukrainian army.
And now, let's return to the main topic of the day. This is yet another massive strike by the Russian army on Ukrainian cities. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy responded to this act of terror. He noted that a just peace is only possible with strong pressure on Moscow. The Ukrainian leader also emphasized that with such attacks, the Russians are undermining the negotiation process.
Diplomacy, which is still ongoing, is also being hit, particularly affecting the efforts of partners who are helping to end this war. We expect that America, Europe, and other partners will not remain silent about this and will remember that achieving real peace requires putting pressure specifically on Moscow. Sanctions, blocking Russian operations, blocking the entire infrastructure of the Russian tanker fleet. Without pressure on the aggressor, wars don't stop. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Russia must be held accountable for the destruction of the energy sector and for war crimes. This was stated at the Security Council meeting by Ukraine's permanent representative to the UN, Andriy Melnik. According to him, a just peace for Ukraine is impossible without holding the Russian Federation accountable for the lawlessness and aggression committed during the war. Ukraine's permanent representative to the UN emphasized that in this matter, there can be no selective justice or immunity.
We often hear the argument that, for the sake of achieving a stable peace, justice should be set aside, or at least not overly emphasized, because, supposedly, holding those responsible accountable could complicate negotiations and jeopardize peace. That is not true. History itself gives a clear answer. Justice and accountability are not obstacles to peace. On the contrary, they are its foundation. The Nuremberg and other international tribunals have demonstrated that justice puts an end to violence and promotes peace. Andriy Melnik, Permanent Representative of Ukraine to the UN.